Capcom has a rich history of crossovers. While the most noteworthy entries hail from the fighting game genre, 8 years ago, Capcom partnered up with Namco to release a strategy RPG crossover entitled Namco Cross Capcom that never saw a release outside of Japan. Though it may have been a fan's dream, critics found the game lacking. Flash forward to the present, where the two companies joined forces with Sega to produce Project Cross Zone, a follow-up to Namco Cross Capcom that looks to not only up the fan service, but actually deliver a solid SRPG. Given the odd title and the unique premise, it's easy to look at this game and wonder just what the heck is going on. Project Cross Zone includes some of the most popular icons from the various Sega, Namco Bandai, and Capcom universes, though there are a few oddball choices. The jam-packed roster is sometimes enough to make your head spin, and while the writing is humorous at times and self-aware, the conversations tend to drag on to the point of tedium when every character has to get a word in.
今の俺たちにできることは拳を振るうことだけだ。構わないな、みんな。
Fortunately, the basic mechanics of the game aren't nearly as overwhelming as the premise. The game is broken into roughly 40-plus chapters, each containing a battle scenario that pits your forces against legions of enemy units on grid-based maps in typical SRPG fashion. The condition for winning requires you to complete simple objectives ranging from vanquishing all enemies, slaying a boss, or reaching a certain spot on the map. New objectives are thrown into the mix every now and then, like completing a task in a limited number of turns, but it's all pretty straightforward. Players can move units in a specified order on the map and perform several actions like attacking, using an item to heal, or using a unit's special skill for an offensive or defensive boost. Once the turn shifts to the opposing side, you sometimes have the opportunity to react to enemy attacks by either defending or countering them. This simplicity has its drawbacks. For the most part, the game is severely lacking in the strategy department. The most reckless actions will go unpunished through at least half of the game, and even when the difficulty turns it up a notch, it'll hardly tax the old noggin. You can't rearrange your units prior to battle, and the simple layout of maps with flat geography and no real obstacles means that the emphasis is squarely on the individual fights. The game is tilted heavily in the player's favor with the ability to heal your units at almost any time, significantly reducing the overall challenge. This lack of challenge is magnified by the game's slow pacing. With so many units on screen, it gets frustrating waiting for everyone to take their turn, and the game sorely needs some sort of way to speed things up. Though the strategy element may be lacking, the flashy combat stands out, with frantic action that resembles a combo-crazed fighting game. There's a small learning curve, but the game eases you into the system so as not to overwhelm you. At the core of each battle are primary units comprised of two characters that team up to execute a series of attacks based on specific button inputs. The execution is nowhere near as difficult as it looks. Each attack is performed by pressing a single button or two. The goal is to perform an initial attack, and then with proper timing follow it up with another attack to produce insanely long damaging combos. The game encourages you to learn the timing of when to follow up an attack and what specific attack to use, rather than haphazardly mashing buttons. If you execute every single unique attack available, you're granted an additional attack to further extend the beatdown. Perfect timing results in critical attacks that deal significantly more damage, and longer combos mean more experience, so there's plenty of incentive to stay sharp during every fight scene. But this isn't the end of the combo insanity. You're eventually able to call in a third character to perform their own attacks, and if you can attack an enemy while an allied unit is within close proximity, they can join in with the support attack. Adding more combatants into the scene certainly makes for some chaotic-looking battles, but there's actually logic to the madness. Catching an enemy between two parties' attacks can produce something called a cross hit, signaled by a green X icon. By keeping up the assault, you'll dish out more damage and ramp up your XP gauge beyond its normal limits. When the gauge is full, you'll be able to use special skills outside battle or channel the energy into cinematic super attacks that pour on the punishment and unleash the fan service. When everything's clicking, the end result is an eye-popping battle that feels truly rewarding. As your characters level up and progress, they'll gain additional attacks to further extend combos and add some more variety to the system. The only drawback is that, given the number of enemies you'll have to plow through, you'll repeat many of the same actions over and over. It's a classic case of too much of a good thing. While the battle animations look amazing, the bulk of the game's visuals look more at home on the DS than the 3DS. Sprite animations on the map look boring and lack variety, and the 3D effect looks terrible. The soundtrack sports a ton of remixes of some classic tunes, but it's hit or miss. There's also only a Japanese audio track with English subtitles, which is probably for the better. Project Cross Zone successfully delivers on the fan service and flashy battles, but it falls short in the strategy department. It's a fun game to play in small intervals, but it's a lengthy proposition, clocking in at around 40 to 50 hours to complete. It's an improvement over the last crossover extravaganza, but this rather one-sided strategy RPG couldn't succeed, even with the strength of its cast of video game icons.